Thank you. Welcome everybody to our regular meeting of council, which starts at 7. That clock is not working correctly. Councillor Murdoch is not well tonight, unable to attend. We acknowledge we're on the lands of the traditional lands of the Lekwungen-speaking people, today known as the Songhees and the Esquimalt First Nations, and that their connection to these traditional lands continue to this day. Tonight, as in every night, there is live streaming and the recording, and that'll be archived. So please be aware of that. And when anyone who comes to the microphone to speak will need to speak right into the microphone, so the people at the watching it on television or on the archives will be able to hear. All right. So we have. The minutes, we start at number 2, which is the council minutes of the 14th of May for adoption, please.
Move adoption.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Go ahead, please. Councillor Zelka.
Thank you very much, Chair. I notice in the minutes on item 17 relating to the speculation tax, this is from the last council meeting, that the motion that was put forward at that time was defeated. And I just wanted to point out for those in attendance that during new business there might be a notice of motion relating to this, I understand, coming forward. Just that it's not in the agenda. I just wanted to basically point it out. Thank you.
But it has anything to do with the minutes, though? Your corrections or changes in the minutes?
Well, yes, what it has to do with is that we defeated the notice, the motion, and yet the notice of motion is related to this. So I just wanted to simply point that out. Thank you very much.
But in relation to the minutes, you're not suggesting they be changed in any way?
Thank you, no.
Thank you. We have a motion to adopt the minutes. Discussion, any other discussion, changes? All in favor? Opposed, not opposed. We have special council meeting. Took place on the 22nd of May, please.
Move adoption.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion, changes, deletions, additions? All in favor? Opposed, not opposed. I have only a few brief remarks tonight. It was a very busy weekend, and our streets were full of people, some running, some walking, and some meandering. We had the half marathon, 2 segments of that running, starting at 7 and starting at 8, a big turnout this year, which started at Windsor. And about 1,600 people registered to participate in that. Great turnout. There was a multiple sclerosis walk and also the World Partnership walk up at the university, which in part was in Oak Bay, meandered back and forth. And then the evening, the Community Association had a meander around Bowker Creek. So a very busy evening, and I thank all the organizers of those events. And secondly, we have the Tea Party coming up this weekend. Just a reminder, Saturday we'll see the parade starting at 10:30, and then all the festivities. So please come out and enjoy the parade and the Tea Party grounds. Lots to eat and see and do. So thank you. That's it for the remarks. Thank you very much. And we now go to the public participation. That's a 20-minute segment we set aside for people to speak to us on a variety of issues touching Oak Bay. We would ask you to state your name and your community of residence. I will start a 3-minute clock, and when I say welcome, and please address all remarks through the chair. Good. So, and then also I'm supposed to ask that you put your name, and so we know we have the correct spelling of that, as well as your community on. There's a form just on the dais there. Okay. And I'd ask you, once you hear the dulcet tones of the iPhone, that you wrap up at that point. First speaker, please.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I was waiting for the welcome part.
No, I welcome you after I've heard your name.
Oh,
After I've heard your name and your community, because
Oh,
I don't want that to eat into your 3 minutes.
okay. I'll go quickly. I'm here tonight as Corinne Green. Well, usually I'm Corinne Green, not as. I'm here as the Commission Chair for Heritage. I'm speaking as Commission Chair tonight. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Welcome.
Thank you. First, I would like to acknowledge with thanks Planner Deborah Jensen for her continued assistance to the Commission on this application and for her report and recommendation. At its regular meeting on May 8th, 2018, the Oak Bay Heritage Commission considered a demolition application for 599 Island Road, an iconic Francis Rattenbury Salmon McClure stone mansion built in 1909 and site of the original Jones family estate. And forgive me for reading this, but my memory isn't as good as it used to be. After careful deliberation following input from the current owners, their legal counsel, and their contractor, the Heritage Commission voted unanimously to recommend to Council denial of this demolition application. This is one of the oldest and most stately heritage homes in Oak Bay, an enduring anchor heritage property that expresses well the majesty of Oak Bay's early history and the significance of the Jones family as part of that history. This home's contribution to Oak Bay's heritage cannot be understated, and its potential loss through demolition would be significant both in principle and as a heritage landmark. Developed as a 10-lot strata in 1985, the mansion and property have been retained and integrated well with the strata development. At the time the strata development was approved, the Council of the Day drew a covenant containing a specific clause that requires Council approval of any demolition of this mansion or alterations to the property. Prior to 1994, when provincial legislation was enacted to enable heritage revitalization agreements, municipal covenants were commonly used to recognize or protect significant landmarks. Related to seismic concerns expressed by the current owners given the mansion's age, we understand that the home is exempt from provincial legislation requiring seismic upgrading to BC Building Code standards, a similar situation, and would likely apply to many of the region's existing historical stone buildings. For example, the provincial legislature, Royal Roads University, Christchurch Cathedral, the Victoria Conservatory of Music, formerly Metropolitan United Church, the Empress Hotel, and Government House. While the owners state they do not feel safe living in the home in its original state, we note that families have been raised in this home during the past 2 decades and earlier. It is also noteworthy that the mansion is also built on rock, itself a seismic advantage. Related to any legal ramifications, we understand that the municipality is neither liable nor legally exposed should Council deny this demolition request. Any risk to the municipality, therefore, perceived or real, appears to be mitigated. The Heritage Commission believes that Oak Bay Council, acting as stewards of this home and property, and of Oak Bay heritage generally, have a compelling obligation to both honor and respect this valuable community asset, one that should be protected and conserved. I'll do it really quickly. Frankly, if a home as significant as this one, symbolic of Oak Bay's unique past, can be demolished, then it begs 2 critical questions.
Thank you.
Can I finish the last 2 sentences? Has the work of Oak Bay Heritage involving thousands of volunteer hours been in vain? And if we can't save this house, can we save any of them? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Oops. There we go. John Armitage, Oak Bay.
Welcome.
I am speaking tonight as myself. And I think I got my name spelt correctly without using my glasses. I'm speaking tonight just as an architect who has some considerable experience with seismic upgrade projects and heritage renovation projects. I could mention a couple with the Union Club and Central Middle School. I'm also originally from the city of Christchurch, so I have a particular interest in the seismic performance of all buildings, including houses, and it shouldn't be downplayed the psychological effect on residents. It can be quite something. Fortunately, we haven't had a Christchurch-type earthquake here and 10,000 aftershocks. The situation around seismic upgrading, no one is compelled to do it really under any circumstances unless there's a change of use. Clearly there's no change of use proposed here. I have some experience with seismic upgrade, but I'm not an expert. And I would suggest not very many people are in this area because every earthquake is different. Every seismic event is different, every building responds differently. However, we have a coterie of very skilled structural engineers here who are used to handling this kind of thing. And what they have proposed for this house is the standard response to this kind of situation, where you go for roughly 2/3 building code, which is considered acceptable for life safety. It's not preserving the building, and clearly that's not the intent here anyway. It is an exceptional building, exceptional design, one of Mr. Rattenbury's calmer moments, but very grounded and not fussy. Really quite exceptional. The key to it is that it has an inner core that's wood frame. That's the very first move you do when you want to preserve life safety. If you have a stone building in the Himalayas, you put 4 columns and beams inside. This already has that. Whether you upgrade it further to some proportion of code or not, there already is that basic level of performance. The first earthquake that hit Christchurch, there were several masonry houses, brick houses, where the outside fell off. And in one case, a teenage boy fell out with it and landed on a pile of broken bricks on the ground and dusted himself off. The building inside stayed up, and that's what tends to happen. There's no guarantee that would happen in this case in a really major earthquake. Who knows what can happen? But I just wanted to add those few comments as some kind of background. And I had a couple of really witty things to draw from Rattenbury's specifications, but I'm out of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Armitage.
Hi, Kristen Giel. I live in Oak Bay.
Welcome.
Thank you, Nels. I'm here to speak to the development application, and I do live in the neighborhood just down the hill. I rarely see the house. As you all know, it's down a cul-de-sac, and the backside faces the park. And so this isn't a personal comment about how my landscape would change in any particular way. And I think it's not a personal thing for me because it really is about future generations. It's not about me and how this community has changed so dramatically in the last 5 to 10 years with losing our heritage housing stock. So I'm here to implore the council to please honor the advice you're receiving from the Heritage Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm Marion Cumming from Sunny Lane in Oak Bay.
Welcome.
Thank you. And I agree with the previous speakers that every effort ought to be made to protect this wonderful house for future generations. And also I'm hoping that we can give some thought to the concerns of the present owners and hope that some innovative way of their feeling safe and feeling that the house can be seismically upgraded in a respectful way that leaves them feeling absolutely comfortable. A member of our Oak Bay Heritage Commission, or the foundation, I think, suggested that there be a GoFundMe campaign where the owners had indicated that the estimates they had received were just way beyond what was affordable. And I understand that it had been for sale in the hope that someone who would care enough to restore it and seismically upgrade it that would purchase it. And perhaps with adequate publicity that could still happen if that's the owner's wish. And I think back to family stories of how older buildings can be protected. I have a family of in-laws in England in a house that's well over 3 centuries old that had been condemned after the Second World War because it was so severely bombed. And I just marvel when I go down into the basement and see that it's simple little timbers less than 2x4s holding up a 3-story building that, because my late brother-in-law was an architect, he was allowed to restore it. And he had that sensibility that it had stood for centuries and was meant to last for centuries longer. And I think of having lived in colonial structures in Mexico City, living through earthquakes there and looking outside to see telephone poles swaying back and forth in a severe earthquake. And yet the structure, after centuries, remains standing. So I do just hope that we can put our thoughts together and find sensible ways of saving one of the most, I think it's one of the most historically significant houses, not only in BC, but in Canada. And it's also, there are 2 wonderful culturally modified Gary oaks in the back garden and others in the surrounding area that are a wonderful incorporation of Indigenous as well as more current architectural history.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much. Thanks to the speakers. We're going to move on, and the next order of business after this is 599 Iden Road. And the process that we're going to go through tonight is I'm going to ask Ms. Jensen to give a very brief overview of what the application is about and a bit of context. We've heard a little bit of that here tonight. The applicant here, okay, welcome. You'll have an opportunity then to address us. And following that, unless there's any questions from council, then we'll bring it back to council. We do have a recommendation. I hope you've had a chance to review the report from Ms. Jensen. And then we'll deal with the issue as council, okay? Ms. Jensen, could you please start us off?
Thank you, Your Worship. Staff did receive an application for a demolition permit to remove the existing home at 599 Island Road. The home, however, is listed on the Oak Bay Community Heritage Register and is protected by a covenant that was registered to the property in 1985 as part of a subdivision process. What that means is that council approval is required before staff could process the permit application. The home itself is associated with architects Francis Rattenberry and Samuel McClure and is linked with the Jones family. It is built of wood frame construction with a granite veneer, but has many other key historical elements. Council previously saw this application last year. In July 2017, the owner was proposing to renovate the home. Council did approve that work. Since that time, the owner started the renovations, but determined that the home is not built to seismic standards. Given that information, the owner prefers to demolish the home. Staff have laid out a couple of options in the staff report and are requesting council direction on either of those options or another direction.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jensen. Are there any questions of Ms. Jensen on her report? Seeing none, I'm going to ask the applicants if they wish to come forward and address us. We do have we do have the materials that you've seen in there before us. You're not obliged to address us, but you can if you wish. I'm just going to halt you there. I think Councillor Croft is going to get some documents. I think he left in the other room. Thank you. You can identify yourself and,
Sure. I'm Leslie Shuring, and this is my husband, Dan Sheehan. We are the owners of 599 Island. It's not easy to be here tonight, but we do want to introduce ourselves. We know it's been an agonizing process for us, so we just want everyone to know that. This hasn't been easy. We are a local family. We have children in the school system here. They represent Oak Bay in soccer and in the Orcas. We love this community, and I love the house. And we bought the house because we love it. It had been on the market for about a year, I believe, or more. And before that, according to neighbors, it hadn't been inhabited in close to 7 years. So the house needed much TLC. We knew that when we bought it, but I love old homes. And so we went through many steps to try and get a renovation plan that would work. We spent close to $70,000 to get to that position. We consulted with the Heritage Commission and worked with them on choosing proper windows. I mean, this has been a love project at the beginning for us. What happened is then we went in to do the building permits, and we found out, of course, we have to get engineering to come in and to sign off on the plans. And this is when everything kind of came to a halt, because we thought, okay, we might have to put in a few shear walls, no big deal. Well, it ended up being a massive undertaking by Herald Engineering. We had two other engineering companies come in before them and told us they will not go near the project. They wanted nothing to do with it because they said this unreinforced masonry is just not able to bring it up to code or whatever. So they wouldn't touch it, but Harold said they would go in. They spent days in there. They did drill testing, and they're like, your home right now as is might be at 10%. They said there's a new code coming into effect in about 6 months from now, and it will be less than that. And so then the plans they gave us to upgrade it to 60%, which is what has to happen to these homes when you do a renovation. And the quotes came back, and we're looking at a couple $1 million to do that, to just get it to 60%. In 6 months, that 60%, Harold told us, will actually be 40% because of the Christchurch earthquake that was brought to our attention earlier. The code is going to be taking into consideration the studies of these buildings and how they perform there. So this is where we're at today. We feel like we're backed into a corner, and to me, the house with young children at less than 10% just doesn't seem livable for me to move in right now and do nothing. And that, to me, is the only option we've been given. So here we are asking for your help or what we should do.
thank you very much.
My name is Dan Sheehan, and I'm obviously Leslie's husband and one of the owners of this property. And as Leslie said, this has been a huge labor of love for us. We bought the home because we love older homes. We've traveled the world. We appreciate architecture. We appreciate design. We appreciate the history and character of this home. And we bought it with the intent of restoring it and really bringing it up and creating a real centerpiece in this community. What sidetracked us is the structural stability of the home. And when the engineers say less than 10%, that they refer to life safety. So what that means is that in a seismic event, there's less. So in theory, if there were 10 people in the home, the way this was explained to me by the engineers, if there were 10 people in the home, 1 out of 10 might make it out.
And I like the bringing up England, but the problem with bringing up examples in England is that it's not a seismic zone like Victoria area is. And so this is why the seismic codes, I guess, are so strict. It's for all of our safety. But I know with the Historical Commission doesn't believe those buildings should comply to that. I understand their point of view, but when we're going to live in it with our family, it just feels different.
And the engineers won't sign off on the renovation. They won't put their stamp and chop of approval that they need to do in order to stamp the plans that we have to use for our building permit. They won't do that unless we meet 60% of code. So that's the minimum requirement to get an engineer to sign off on any renovation. The minute we touch anything, the minute we do anything and pull a building permit, we need an engineer to sign off on it, and they won't sign off on it without the seismic upgrades. The other thing we've heard tonight is, veneer. We've heard the word veneer. To me, the word veneer means a thin layer of stone. We're dealing with 18-inch thick granite blocks. 18 inches is 45 centimeter thick stone walls that run from the basement to the top of the 3rd floor. Again, what the engineers have told us is that they will pancake. The mass of those walls is so heavy and the timbers inside are so dry after being there for 100 years and really not strong, that house will go like a house of cards. That's how it will go in any kind of a lateral seismic event. So if all you have to do is Google the pictures from Christchurch and what happened there 7 years ago. And the buildings and the way that they were built and the age of the buildings are very similar to these types of buildings around Oak Bay. And again, the difference between our home and most of the homes, the heritage homes in Oak Bay, is they're wood. They have a wood exterior. Our house is 100% on all sides, 18-inch thick granite walls. That's the difference. And that's what makes it so unique, but that's also what makes it a death trap. It's unfortunate. So that's why we're stuck.
Okay, just to see if there's any questions the council may have. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Nay and then Councillor Kirby, please.
Thank you very much for sharing this from your perspective. I know it's not difficult or not easy given the circumstances, and I think you can feel the energy in the room, how protective the community is of this home. But what I'm trying to understand right now from you is really what the issue is for you. And maybe there are two separate ones here, but on one hand, I'm hearing that the difficulty for you is that you're sort of log jammed because you've tried to go get your permits, but you've not been able to because you're then required to do this significant upgrading, which is cost prohibitive given the property. That's one issue I've heard you say.
Right.
And then the other is that even if you did upgrade to get it to seismic compliance, the 60%, if you didn't do that, then you would be living in a home that's only 10%, and that you're concerned about the integrity of the home in an earthquake. But for me, those are two separate issues, and I'm just wondering if you understand how I see
Right.
those.
Well, when we bought the house, because it hadn't been fully inhabited, like it's definitely needs TLC. So we definitely bought it with the intention of giving it TLC and upgrading things like bathrooms and this kind of thing. But the minute we do that, we have to bring it up to 60%. We didn't buy it to move in as is.
I understand that.
Oh,
The
okay.
reason I'm asking the question is because if there were a way to get around the building permit issue, and we have to talk to staff about that,
Right.
would you go through with it? That if you didn't have to bring it up to seismic compliance, the 60%, but then, and the permits were granted, just imagine hypothetically, I'm not saying it could happen, but then would you go through with the renovation that you had formerly been planning? That's what I'm wondering.
So you're saying to do the renovation but not bring it up to seismic code?
I'm just saying, if there were a way to overcome that,
Right.
would you follow through?
Well, I
That's
still
all I'm
feel
wondering.
responsible to move in now, knowing what I know about where the building's at. Okay. So, yeah.
Councillor Kirby, you had a question?
I had a question for staff.
Okay.
But maybe it's for the applicant too. I don't know. But is this an opportunity where we could use a heritage revitalization agreement where there's some kind of mechanism where we could negotiate with the homeowner to to reach some kind of other agreement. This feels like, I feel like you're asking for permission to demolish because you can't afford to do the renovation to the extent that would be necessary to keep your family safe or any occupant safe.
Right.
There's no alternative, right? There's no other. Have you explored a heritage revitalization agreement with staff?
I thought that's what already had happened to that property to do the subdivision.
Right.
Was my understanding was that they carved up that land to create a subdivision and just kept the house.
But if I'm just thinking, maybe we could take it a further step, and if there were a means of finding a way for you to be able to, like, for example, in other homes that have used the HRA, they have divvied the house up into suites in order to have an income to support the renovation, because we know it's very costly to bring heritage homes up to code. That's a means of funding the renovation. So I'm just wondering if that was an option, whether you had explored
We hadn't
No.
explored.
that as
No,
an
not,
idea.
not
I don't know if we
making
can do a
apartments.
heritage revitalization agreement upon heritage revitalization agreement, but I don't see why not.
Mhm.
If we were to look for a creative means to help you achieve living in the home.
Okay.
But is that possible, Ms. Jensen?
I think it would really depend on what it is that the applicants would like to do with the property. Heritage revitalization agreement you can use for a number of different methods, such as what you mentioned earlier, divvying up the home, but it would really depend on what the applicants would want to do.
Okay, thank you.
My understanding is that whatever funds would be available through those types of plans, they would be nominal in any event. I mean, again, we're talking about a couple $1 million a minimum to do this work. So even if it was 20,000, 30,000, I mean, that's really not going to make any significant difference in the total cost.
Right, even if it was in like an annual rental sum. Because if you could divvy the house up, I don't know how large it is and whether that's even a possibility, but to have like some other examples of where we've seen the house divvied up into 3 apartments, and then so 2 apartments rented out annually, provide a sample, an ample sum to service any debt that's incurred from the loan to renovate. It seems like just a tragedy. If you love this home, the community loves this home. We have some tools in our toolbox as far as, and the heritage revitalization is the only one that I am aware of, that would allow you to have some financial recompense for the work that you do, and I think that might be an option. I just hope that.
I don't think by getting a designation in exchange for something, that doesn't come with funding from either the community.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying from a if they were to divide the house up into more than one property, you could maybe, there are alternatives, I think, that we've seen before. We have, I think, 4 or 5 examples now in Oak Bay where we've had, I know of one where there was, 3 suites divvied up. There's another major house on Foul Bay that just received permission to have 2 suites in the basement, and then the main level is been retained as the family home. And, that's, I know that there's, at the rental rates that are available in Oak Bay at this time, and such a fabulous location and such a unique character home, you could charge a substantial rent for a suite. I don't know if that's even a possibility though, but just as an alternative to what I think is probably not the outcome you had hoped for, and nor the community.
Regardless of what happens tonight in terms of the decision that we make, that's always a possibility that you can enter into discussions with our staff in regards to our heritage revitalization agreement, if that's something you're interested in. They can explain it to you, but for tonight we have a slightly different decision to make. Councillor Braithwaite, please.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I know, I can tell how hard it is for you to be here. I reiterate Councillor Nay's comments on that. It pulls at my heartstrings to see you have to stand here and plead your case on this property. It is such an iconic property for Oak Bay, and so the question that comes to my mind is, if this demolition request is denied, what is your next step?
I have no idea.
We've been trying to sell the home. We've had it on the market since we learned this news back in the fall. We continue to market it. We continue to lower the price. We're willing to take a financial loss. We expect to take a financial loss over this issue because that would be our preferred route, is to get a family that's, would be willing to buy it. But again, this is now part of the public record. The seismic report is part of the public record. And so, again, we're kind of, for lack of a better word, between a rock and a hard place.
There's been about 38 showings, and predominantly everyone's saying this is too big a project to take on to upgrade without even knowing the seismic, just to make it habitable for them. So whoever takes the house on will meet you again.
But we can't in good faith, based on what we know, we can't live there. We can't rent it. We can't rent it to anyone. Can't put it on VRBO. We can't get a tenant in there because it's not safe. So we've got $2.5 million tied up in a home that we can't live in, right? That's what we paid for the home. So what can we do?
And I know that you would have done your due diligence before you purchased the home to know exactly what you were getting into, and that you, I can tell from what you said in the beginning that you had done that. So my heart does go out to you for this. It's, I'm not sure, I think our hands are tied as a municipality as to what we can do and what we can offer for help. And it's now really just up to these people around this table as to whether or not that demolition would go through or not, that demolition permit would go through or not. And from what I'm looking at and from the correspondence that I see coming in and all of the things that I've read about this house, it is a very iconic house, and we're really put in a hard position because our heart wants to help you, but our brain says no, logically we need to keep this for our community. So that's kind of what we're grappling with right now. So.
Yep, thank you very much. Councillor Croft, next, please.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is, you're not currently living in the home. It still sits vacant after all this time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My other question is for Ms. Jensen, and I have two questions for you. And the first one is that in your report you state that there's no requirement for the owners to seismically upgrade the home, and yet we have a report here, and it's been indicated that there's going to be a requirement that homes like this are going to be required to be brought up to the 60% standard. Can you add something to that?
As is laid out in the report, there is no requirement under the BC Building Code for existing homes to be upgraded to any kind of seismic standard. Local governments really have no power to require those kinds of standards to be brought in.
Thank you. And so this is really your wish to be able to upgrade the home? Because it's not clear to me. On one hand, we're hearing that there's no requirement, and then what you're saying is that you are required because you can't get your building plans because an engineer won't stamp them, and then staff won't approve them. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's correct. So we could live in the home theoretically as is, not touching anything, maybe painting. That's it. But the minute that we need to do any work that requires a building permit, the engineer requires the upgrades to 60%. And we were also told by staff that we needed 60%. So that's where, yeah.
I'll go back to Ms. Jensen. Ms. Jensen, could you speak to that, please?
I know there was some discussion in the building department between our building inspectors and the owners of the home. But again, just to reiterate, there is no requirement for seismically upgrading an existing home.
Okay, so just to put a even a finer point to it. So a permit could be issued to renovate the home, assuming it's in keeping with the covenant. Like for instance, when we approve those changes, that can be, you can issue a permit for those changes that we approved. I think you said in July, was it?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
So if I can clarify, but the engineers won't sign off on those plans, and we need them to sign off on those plans in order for the project to move forward.
I think we've clarified what our position is in terms of our ability to issue a permit. Okay. Was that anything more, Councillor Croft?
Well, I have one other one to follow up to Councillor Kirby, and that is, have you considered designation of the property as is intimated in the report, that there's an opportunity to designate the property? There might be an opportunity for some other funding to assist you in doing the work you choose to do to the property, because it strikes me it's more choosing to do these seismic upgradings for your own purposes than what's required by this body.
I'm just totally confused because did not the engineers tell us we had to bring it up to 60% and the building department? Okay, so
his question is about designating.
I think you're going to have to keep up your voice now, because no one's
sorry.
going to be able to hear you at the back or
okay,
on live streaming here.
okay.
So your question is, would we be willing or would we be open to the idea of designating heritage?
That's correct.
So I guess the issue would be then what's the financial package that's on the table? Because our understanding is that in order to do that, there's a fair market value assessment that has to be done, and there's an adjustment in fair market value costs that would have to occur.
That's only if there's a forced designation. I think you're talking about a voluntary designation.
Exactly, Your Mayor.
But I think I'm going to ask you, that's going to be offline, because that's something that can be discussed regardless of what our decision is here. That's something you can take up with staff. Okay. Was that it, Councillor Croft? Councillor Zalko, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Question first through you to staff. I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Jensen, that this being a single-family home, the BC Building Code allows those owners of single-family homes to essentially be their own engineer. In other words, engineering drawings are not needed. You don't need an engineer. You don't need an architect. There's special provisions made for single-family homes, separate from commercial, separate from other class of buildings. Is this part of what you're referring to in terms of how there's no requirement for any seismic upgrade? Because it sounds to me like there's a bit of that if there is a requirement for an engineer and the engineer themselves choose to not take on that liability, you can see that there's this, I guess you could call it catch-22. So if you could just speak to the requirement of the building code with respect to single-family homes, please.
I'll answer what I can. I am not a building inspector, so I don't want to get into the details in terms of what the inspectors would be asking for as part of an application. But I do know there are absolutely no requirements in the BC Building Code for existing single-family homes to be brought up to any kind of seismic standard. And that's not just seismic, that's other issues around any existing homes as well. There are some sections of the building code that speak to alternate compliance. Those tend to be around issues as far as fire separations and so on are concerned. So again, as far as the building code is concerned, there has been no requirement from our building officials to bring that home up to a 60% standard. There's no requirement to do that. I can't speak to what discussions have been had with their engineer.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Following up. With respect to, I say, general upgrade provisions, say a house of this age and of this state, I've noticed that sometimes our building inspectors, those on the counter, like for example, in my case, for the building permit that I'm working on, I needed to change the railing on the stairs. And Oak Bay building inspector said, I need an engineering stamp on this. So if an engineer has to get involved and an engineer is uncomfortable with respect to the condition of the house, how could you or how could we address this potential catch-22 for a heritage home, not just this one, but all heritage homes that may be coming forward for renovation work, please?
Well, again, in this particular case, I don't think that would be part of the discussion. We have had this conversation in-house with our staff just to confirm what our position is, and there has been no requirement on the part of the building officials to bring that home up to seismic standard. So with respect to the discussions between the applicant and their engineers, I can't speak to that. I don't know what that has been entailed.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Braithwaite again, please.
My questions were in a very similar vein. I was wanting some clarification because there seems to be some misunderstanding, I think, between what the residents are thinking and what our staff are saying. So I was just looking for a clarification there, but I think that Ms. Jensen
I
clarified.
think we have it fairly clear as to what our requirements are, and I think that seems to be crystal clear. All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, we're now going to bring it back to council, and really there's two main ways we can deal with this. We can deny the application tonight. If there is, however, some interest and sufficient interest in considering this application, it really should have a process surrounding it. That process could be referring it to the APC, the Advisory Planning Commission, to getting their input, and then bringing it to a committee of the whole, either directly or through the APC, where we have public input, public discussion. Tonight we've had some submissions, but this would allow an exchange. I think we would need motion one way or the other.
I'll make the recommendation that the proposal to demolish the existing home at 599 Island Road as per building permit of application BP 011083 be denied.
Okay. And that's the recommendation of Ms. Jensen. Thank you very much. So essentially you're moving the recommendation of our staff. Moved and seconded. Discussion. We're going to ask the mover and then the seconder to speak if they wish.
Again, I would just like to reiterate that this is a very, very tough decision. Obviously, this is an iconic building for our community, and I do feel for the residents or the owners that they have tried their hardest to do something. I think that from all of the letters that we received, there was a lot of really great information in there on reasons to uphold the value of this heritage property, and that's why I would like to support this recommendation. But again, my heart does go out to the owners, because I think that it's a very difficult position for them to be in.
Thank you very much. Ms. Councillor Nave.
When I heard, I appreciate the residents coming and speaking with us, because I have some sense there's been some misunderstandings. I hope that they can continue to stay in discussion and troubleshoot this, but as it is right now, I see no basis to demolish this property that's of real valuable significance to this community.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Zelka, please.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at the what's called the earthquake maps from the BC government. If I could look them up for a moment here, where have I got them? Ministry of Energy, Mines and Petroleum Resources is what their current ministry is called. They've got an earthquake hazards mapping for Greater Victoria. I do notice that 599 Island Road, on both the amplification hazards map and the earthquake composite hazards map, lists that property as the lowest risk of earthquake damage of all areas in Victoria. There are other areas that are red. This area is a dark gray, and I welcome the owner to look this up on the website. I wish my house actually had the same rating. Unfortunately, my house is rated at a higher earthquake damaged level. I do also note that the building is built with a wooden frame core with a veneer of stone, and over hundreds and hundreds of years of hard-earned experience, with as detailed in a number of crazy books that I read on catastrophes. The type of house that has a granite veneer with a wood frame, an interior core wood frame, is actually one of the more safest houses to build in an earthquake type area. If many more houses at Christchurch actually had a solid wood frame with only the veneer of stone, many more of them would have been standing. Those that actually have concrete floors, especially a very, very heavy roofs, those are the ones that tend to pancake, not the ones with wooden frames. So I want to compliment the owners of this property. They actually bought what appears to me, in my limited understanding of these things, as a relatively safe house, certainly compared to my home. I would be more worried about everyone else in the property with respect to cripple walls and the movement of land. Please look up cripple walls. That will make your homes much safer than a concern about veneer falling off a house. So for those reasons, I will be supporting the motion to deny.
Thank you very much.
Sorry,
Councillor Kirby?
I thought you were looking at staff, so.
Well, I was.
Okay.
I was. I just sent him a note for some directions.
Okay. While I sympathize, and certainly have no expertise in seismic upgrades or how this might be achieved, and what I have, done my own homework as far as emergency planning, but I cannot speak as an expert. I understand the fear and the anxiety that would be felt by a family moving into a home like that. I completely empathize with that fear. I feel like there must be some way to compromise and find a way to protect the home as well as achieve your goal of safety and or relative safety. I mean, honestly, we all don't know where we'll be when that happens, and there is no guarantees for anyone. But I feel our responsibility here is to protect the health and safety of our community, and so I feel this is a very challenging decision because you're going right to the heart of what I believe is my responsibility, which is to protect your family and ensure their health and safety in our community. But at the same time, this is a treasured home that has a very historic significance, which you understand. So my hope is that if, as I expect, we deny this application this evening, that you will be able to work with staff and the Heritage Commission to come up with some means to support a plan that would allow you to the financial resources to get the home up to where an engineer might sign off on it, or that at least you'd have the comfort of it being as safe as possible. I don't think there are any guarantees, but I think anything close to 60% is probably just as good as anybody else is going to expect if the big one happens, from what I've heard from our fire chief in the past, and explanations of liquefaction or something like that it's going to happen to my backyard. So in my timber frame house. So yeah, it'll be anyone's guess what's going to happen. But I think that in the meantime, we all value in this community these kinds of historic homes and the stories of those families that go with them. And so I will support the motion to deny the application.
Thank you. I think we're ready for the question. All in favor of the motion to deny the application? Opposed? No one is opposed. Thank you very much. Thank you. We're going to maybe give people a few minutes to kind of clear the room. I assume many of you came for that issue. Yes, it does look like that. If you can just do so quietly, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, I'm just going to ask that no conversations take place inside. If you could just move away from the doors too, so we can get back on the agenda. Thank you very much. We're back on the agenda now. We're on item number 7, new business. Any new business?
Yes.
Go ahead, please. Councillor Kirby with new business.
I have a report to share with you briefly that there has been some
This-
resolution to the school crossing guards issue.
Okay, these are other verbal reports you wanted to...
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, not new business. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. We can get back to that. New business, anybody? Okay,
I was going to give an update on the engagement. Is that new business or verbal?
that's verbal reports.
Yep, okay. Okay, so,
Okay, well, I'm going to recognize Councillor Croft. He's got his hands up for new business.
New business, I'd like to let council know that I'll be bringing forward there's a notice of motion regarding council compensation with the taxes that are going to be coming forward from the federal government and some of the reviews that have been done of other municipalities in the area. I would be bringing forward a motion. I won't be here on June 11th, so it'll have to wait till after that.
Thank you very much. So that is the notice of motion itself. And between now and when it goes on the agenda, if you can type that up. I have a notice of motion myself, and that has to do with a resolution to do with the speculation tax. I circulated to the council. I drafted and circulated to council on the 22nd of this month, and I understand that council would prefer to have this put over and be treated as a notice of motion rather than it have it debated tonight. Is that correct? Okay, I see at least one nodding. Thank you. So that's the notice of motion. Now, under report on from the Capital Regional District, there was the meetings coming up, so there was none between now and the last time we reported. Other verbal reports. There we go. How about you, Councillor Kirby? Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Take it away.
Okay, so I had a letter, or we had a letter, the district had a letter from the school district and from Beacon Services, Community Services, who were the former providers of crossing guard services in the region, and particularly ours at Willows School. And so what we've learned is that they will, as of July 1st, be passing the program on to a new association called the Greater Victoria Crossing Guards Association. They're just putting that together as we speak. Somebody came forward to a woman named Audrey Smith, who is the president, and she is currently the chair of the Victoria Confederation of Parent Advisory Councils, the VCPAC. And so she's going to take this on as an initiative to make sure that the service continues. And she will be, and this society is registering and will be the one facilitating the ongoing services of crossing guards. So that
Thank
is
you.
a
That's
positive
good news.
resolution. I have other new business.
Other verbal reports?
Other verbal reports, I mean.
That's
sorry.
that's the
It's
title of this
technical.
section.
This is so technical.
Okay.
It's
Verbal report number
another
2.
verbal report on I'm making some progress on our community conversations on mental health.
Excellent.
And
Thank
I
you.
wanted to give a brief update that the first community conversation on mental health will be June 19th, Tuesday, June 19th at the Dave Dunnett Theatre in the high school at 7 p.m. And we've got some excellent speakers lined up. I'm hoping to have a couple of other special guests, and but the goal is to sort of have it like a talk show style, and make sure that there's an actual conversation amongst the community, not just a giving of information. But the focus is on youth mental health and substance use, and getting some great assistance from the members of the Oak Bay High PAC, Parent Advisory Committee, and their subcommittee on health and wellness. And so I have a poster that's being developed, and I'll put that out to everybody in the public as soon as possible. But just if you wanted to mark it down for a save the date. And thirdly,
So save the date on 19th of June in the evening.
Yes.
Thank you. Very
At the
good
high
initiative.
school.
Thank you.
Okay.
Report number 3, Beverly.
And the fundraising for Ride Don't Hide is coming along quite well, and we've got some amazing support from our staff and from community members. And so I just wanted to remind everybody that June 24th is coming up very soon. And if you haven't already signed up or registered, you're welcome to join our team and support us. But it's going to be a wonderful community event. And I also want to remark that the number one fundraisers right now on the leaderboard of fundraisers for the Canadian Mental Health Association and the Ride Don't Hide is the team called Just Dandy. And that's a team that's been organized in memory of our Oak Bay Fire chaplain, Ken Gill. So
Okay.
it's
Thank you
doing
very
very
much.
well.
Another-
It's raised almost $10,000.
Wow. Another mental health initiative, which we're grateful for. Thank you very much for updating us on that. And certainly it's going to raise awareness as well as funds. So thank you very much. And it's going to start this year in Oak Bay. Verbal report. I saw your hand up before, Councillor Ney.
Thank you.
Please.
So just a second update on the Mayor's Task Force for Public Engagement. Over the last month, the task force has been out doing pop-ups throughout the community, and we've engaged over 300 residents in the community. And we've got 189 responses to the online survey, all of them completed, and we've got some really strong themes emerging now. So the next piece will be to have a discussion with staff, trying to understand what their needs are, and then the information will be compiled and analyzed, and we'll develop some recommendations, and those recommendations will go out to the public at the Oak Bay Night Market on Wednesday, July 18th for community input. And then we'll be packaging everything together and bringing it to council in the coming months.
Thank you very much. Excellent initiative. And those pop-ups are thoroughly modern, aren't they? And they're been very well received. Councillor Croft, verbal report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The Mayor and I attended a Vision 2040 put on by I don't know what's going on here. South Island Prosperity Project last week. And they provided an update on where they are and where they're going as a separate presentation for the annual general meeting. And this information is available online if you want to look at it. The most interesting thing is we have a prosperity index, indicators at a glance, which compares us to other Canadian cities of similar size and an average size, so you can see where we sit in our many areas in economic resiliency, transportation and mobility, housing and affordability, human health, and environmental health are the areas that are checked. So a very interesting document, and I'd recommend that you have a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other verbal reports? Councillor Braithwaite, please.
Thank you. Two things, or actually more than two, maybe. As far as your evening that you're doing at the high school, if I can help with anything through the organizations that I deal with through United Way, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to do that, although I won't be here that day for flying to Newfoundland that day. And also for the Ride Don't Hide, I think that if you're not, I won't be here, but I'm going to sign up digitally so that I can ride digitally. And I would ask anybody else to do that as well. I have two things of my own, though. One would be I would like to thank our staff member, Cindy Denomi, for her help with the municipal dinner that we had. It was a wonderful event for those of you who were able to be there. And Cindy puts a lot of work into that, so I'd like to publicly thank her for that. And also, I've noticed that both the mayor and Councillor Kirby have neglected to point out that we had a little commuter challenge last week, where a certain councillor with a smart car had a race against two councillors with bikes. And I'm just going to say that perhaps the smart car won. And it was a good race, but thank you very much for inviting me to take part. It was a lot of fun. I did not speed. The mayor went through a red light.
Oh, there is some questionable
Fake
facts
news.
here.
No. You know, we didn't mention that. We've been trying to forget it ourselves. We were very close.
Except for I've never had so many compliments on the photo of the photo finish of the two of us in our silver
Yes.
medals.
I was nipped at the finish line by Councillor Kirby. Did a great job. Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Braithwaite. Councillor Zelkom?
It's great to see active transportation, sometimes including cars. My goodness, it's amazing. I wanted to also just give a shout out and a thanks to the Island Ukuleles, who did an absolutely wonderful job. I am completely in conflict of interest since my daughter is a member of the Island Ukuleles, but I just thought wanted to say thank you to that group. And Tina Horwood, the leader of the group, did a great job pulling it all together. Is this appropriate to give now an update from the CRD Water Commission, or did you want to speak about?
No, that would be certainly a verbal report.
Right. Yes. Okay. So CRD Water Commission, our water is in good shape. Unfortunately, we continue to use less and less and less, which is unfortunately forcing rates to go, as a result, up and up. Now, not necessarily we've been able to sort of hold it in line with expenses, but the usage of water is going down, and that's not necessarily a problem. So I just wanted to point out the fact that we're having, at least in 5 to 10 to 20 years, we're going to have some budgeting issues if this water usage continues to go down, since we have such an incredible abundance of water, especially with thanks to the work that was done in previous years, with the raising of the not only of the reservoir, but also the leach water reservoir area next to it. The last thing I wanted to mention about that is most of the CRD Water Commission these days is dealing with mining requests, special use requests. That was called, I didn't even know what a placer miner was until I got on the Water Commission. So for anyone in the crowd who is a placer miner, you need to, of course, reminder to use your gold mining tenure, otherwise you lose it. Thank you.
And that's minor as in, not as in someone who's under 19. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I think the water usage started dropping the year we had the drought, and everyone realized that wasn't such a good idea to run out of water. Thank you very much, everybody. We go on to the next item, which is a development permit, not a variance permit, at 3475 Ripon Road, also known as the Royal Victoria Yacht Club. This has been at the Committee of the Whole, where there was an opportunity for public input. It hasn't gone out to notice because there was no variance, so this is merely for us to confirm, or if you have any questions for the applicant. I see the Commodore and the past Commodore is here. If you have any questions, in 30 words or less, Ms. Jensen, what's this about, so people know what we're dealing with? We all know because we have the report in front of us.
Yeah, the Royal Victoria Yacht Club is looking to construct a smaller storage area for smaller watercraft along the foreshore. So it would mean filling in a small portion of the area, capping that, and then regrading the entire boat storage area for better drainage.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions of the applicant? And I don't know who. Okay, there's no questions for the applicant, so we don't need you to come forward.
The acting director of Building and Planning be authorized to issue a development permit with respect to 3475 Ripon Road.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Zelka, please.
Thank you, Chair. Question through you to staff. I see this is all down by the water and seems to be very focused on to their properties. But I do notice that sometimes with our developments that are being done by proponents, that it ends up impacting the public space. And I make reference to, for example, like Glenline, Norfolk, some of the work happening over there is impacting the public space that maybe we didn't know about. So I wanted to ask, in this case, is there any public spaces that are being impacted, like possibly new sewer lines going in, new water lines going in? Is there sidewalks or roads being dug up? Anything along those lines that the public needs to know about or might be impacted in a negative way? Thank you.
Ms. Jensen, can you answer that?
Yeah, not in this instance.
There isn't. Thank you. Any further question or discussions? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you very much. No one opposed. Thank you, and all the best for the project.
Thank you very
Commodore
much
and former Commodore.
for all these years.
All right, it's been a while. We wish you the best with that project. So the next is item number 9. We had first, second, and third reading. This is a Parks and Beaches Amendment Bylaw, which resulted in a lively discussion and good input from our community. We kind of tweaked it a little bit. This is going to allow portable gas appliances. It's not ones that are appropriately approved by the Canadian Standards Association. They're going to be allowed on the beach from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., but no charcoal, also known as briquettes. If someone would like to move it a first
reading of Bylaw 4712.
We can do it all three at once, first, second, and
I
third?
will move first, second, and third.
Seconded.
Of Bylaw 4712.
Got point of procedure, yes.
If I was to make an amendment, if we omnibus them, then we can't do that, because we can only make the amendment at the second reading, is that correct?
Mr. Jones?
Your Worship, if there was a desire to make an amendment, it would probably be easier to make it after first or second reading.
Okay, so let's do it one at a time.
I will do it one at a time. I will move first reading of the Bylaw 4712.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Is there a wish to then to move an amendment at that point?
So I'd like to amend the...
To the motion?
Your Worship, probably best to actually give it first reading.
First reading and then do the second
reading. And then or then move an amendment.
Okay, so let's do that. That's fine. It's been moved, it's been seconded for first reading. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed. Now, we can have the proposed amendment. Thank you.
So I'd like to make an amendment at 21(1)D, where it reads that the burning may only be used between May through September, and that be amended year-round, or something to that effect.
So the outdoor burning may only be, and you would take out from there would only be, and then you take out the word used from May 1st through September 30th.
It would actually just read...
But you would leave in
delete.
from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have the words that are to be extracted and made a note of that, staff? Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Okay, it's on the floor. Discussion?
Well, I guess
Or
I'll
it's on the
try and motivate, shall I?
Go ahead, yes.
Okay,
You moved it, and then we'll hear from you,
yeah.
and then the seconder if she
Okay.
wants.
So, I really appreciate this whole bylaw because it expands our public space to that waterfront area in the evening hours. So with that, I don't see any downside at all to being able to use our beaches in the winter. I'm open to the discussion here, but there's a lot of times, personally, I like to walk and sit on the beaches in the fall time. We have beautiful fall times with big autumn moons, and furthermore, early in the spring, there's times to visit before the May begins, where you can use our beaches. It's a temperate climate. So, and even when it's brisk, we have a lot of sunny, not windy days where the beach areas, even in the middle of December, I don't know if people would do it at nighttime, use them, but why not give people the choice to make use of them year-round?
Thank you. Do you wish to add anything, or anyone wish to add anything to the discussion on the amendment? Okay.
I would just echo that, yes,
Okay.
I think it would be a wonderful addition, and to extend it is I think, a great idea, because this may get caught up and lost in the election time, because it ends in October September, and we might not be aware, and then it wouldn't get done. And so I would like to extend it now, just to be sure that we can continue the tradition, and if it doesn't, or continue the practice. But if it doesn't, if we do see problems arise, I'm sure that will come up, and there will be an opportunity to amend it. So I think it's safe to do this now.
Thank you very much. Councillor Braithwaite, and then Councillor Zalko, please.
Yeah, I mean, this is the discussion we had the other night, and I was all for having it go year-round, so I'm thrilled that you've brought this back to the table again, and I'll be very happy to support the motion.
Okay, Councillor Zalko.
Thank you, Chair. A question for you, through you to staff, with respect to the dog usage around this time. If I remember correctly, don't we sort of keep dogs generally away from May 1st to September 30th. I just want to confirm those dates so that after September 30th, the dogs can generally come back up until May 1st of the next year. Could I confirm that, please, with staff?
I can confirm that actually through Parks and Rec,
Yeah.
yes.
We already have, our public basically informed to some extent that things change around May 1st and things change again around September 30th. I'm comfortable leaving 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then, if it seems to work out fine after a year or two, then maybe extend it a year round. But I'm fine with it as is. Thank you. I'll
All
be
right.
voting against the amendment.
Thank you very much. Councillor Croft?
Yeah,
Where do you come down on the May to September
Well, I
question?
will vote against the amendment too, because I really think that this was brought forward by staff as an opportunity, and we'd see how it would go, and we'd revisit it. And I see nothing wrong with revisiting it in the fall. And if it's overlooked by the new council, then it's overlooked. But I think that staff will be bringing it back because they'll report out to us what has happened. I really don't see that year-round fires on our beach are such a great idea. We have thing called Halloween that comes up around about October 31st, and I think that it's a risky practice.
It's always on October 31st, number one. And number two, we have a very large fire on the beach on that night. So, anyway, that doesn't need anything. Councillor Braithwaite, and then we're ready for the vote, I think.
I think that, already in the bylaw, it has some exclusions. If we felt that we needed to exclude October 31st as to allowing flyers on the beach, we could do that if we chose to. But I'm still happy to support the motion or the amendment as it stands.
All right, I think we're ready for the question. This is to amend, to strike out the words that I've already mentioned, essentially taking out May 1st through September 30th. All in favor of that amendment? Opposed? Councillor Croft, Councillor Zelka, opposed. It passes 4-2. Thank you. Now we're on the main bylaw as amended then, at second reading. Further discussion.
Of amended bylaw 4712.
Okay, that's moved a second time as amended.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? None opposed? Oh, one opposed. Thank you. Two opposed. All right. Croft and Zelka continue to be opposed. Yes, that's fine.
I'll move third reading of bylaw 4712.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Zelka and Croft opposed. Thank you very much.
I'll move
that
adjournment.
That passes also. And a motion to adjourn, which I heard moved and seconded. Related to the motion? No, it'll be law when it comes back for adoption or final reading, some people call it. Yep, no public hearing. We did have, that was the public hearing we had at Committee of the Whole, essentially. I'm going to call the question to adjourn. Are we all in favor? Against? No one against. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here, joining us. Tom, there's 2 minutes and 28 seconds left in the basketball game.